Welcome back to another little episode here of Strife's Talking Points, and today I'm going to go over a little bit of story that I got this morning, which was the career of Joe Biden. As today kicks off, the Democrats are out in force, getting ready to have their big review in Iowa, or not in Iowa, somewhere. It doesn't even matter. This is Ed O'Keefe of CBS talking about
on President Trump during 3 campaign stops across Iowa today. According to excerpts provided by the Biden campaign, the former vice president is set to tell audiences that he believes Mr. Trump is, quote, an existential threat to America.
Now, you've heard this word over and over and over. Basically, it's become a cliche. Existential threat refers to a threat that's something like nuclear war, international war, these giant things where everything would be basically wiped out, destroyed. And that's what Joe Biden is going to play on over the next couple days is the fear within the Democratic Party of Trump destroying the nation. Now, there is no weight to this. This is just the new party politics and fear that is being pushed out by everyone, everywhere, where there is no overall weight given to any single argument. It's just everything is terrible. Everything is going to end up destroying the nation. It's going to destroy your homes, your families, everything. There is no ramped up. Everything is ramped up to 11. It is just the new way of the world. Joe plans to call President Trump an existential threat to the United States, according to prepared remarks shared with CBS News. The bashing by the frontrunner for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination and former VP would come as he and Mr. Trump travel throughout Iowa Tuesday, trying to galvanize their supporters. Now, Biden is an oddball in all this because he's trying to draw a sharp contrast between himself and the president on several key issues, according to the campaign. Among them, tariffs, climate change, and restoring American values. Now, I pulled up the LA Times story. This is kind of what you're seeing is the Democrats are going to have a big issue between each other because if they go after each other, even in the slightest, it's going to go off the rails because identity politics is well within the Democratic purview right now, and with old white men being the ultimate negative in the current version of identity politics, Biden himself, Bernie Sanders, a lot of the front runners will just be destroyed by the press, by the media, because that is the way the story has to go. There's even articles talking about old white men have an electability problem. That's the story on the Washington Post now. I didn't feel like covering it because Washington Post has been falling in this rabbit hole for a very long time. But here's a little bit about Joe Biden most people already know. Joe Biden's been in public life for 40 years. All right, a lot of the old stuff he did was mainstream Democrats, and this kind of shows you the shift in the party here in the last few years. 36 years as U.S. Senator, 8 as VP, and a reminder the Democratic Party itself has shifted and changed over the last 50 years. All right. Biden opposed school busings for desegregation in the 1970s. That doesn't seem like a Democratic thing to do, but that was the mainstream party thing to do back in the 70s. Most people have trouble now equating the actual Democratic Party of old to the Democratic Party of new. However, you need to remember that in stronghold Democratic areas, such as the major cities, colleges actually segregate students into dorms by race. There's been a big thing about Berkeley and some of the other places in California which break them up. There's a black dorm, there's an Asian dorm, there's a white dorm. They're segregating people in those places as part of the Democratic purview for race and equality is by separating people. It's very odd that that's where they still are, but they got away from it. Now they're right back to it because identity politics is ruling the group now. He voted on a measure aimed to outlaw gay marriage in the 1990s. Again, gay marriage wasn't very popular in the 90s through either political party, and even Barack Obama, as he was being elected, didn't support it. It was only after the tide turned that these politicians said okay. He was an ally of the banking and credit card industries. Most of our political system are the corporatist. These are people looking for big money, big donors, big payouts, big payoffs sometimes is what I also believe. But that is nothing new. That is kind of something that we've had forever, and it hasn't changed. He chaired 1991 Clarence Thomas hearing that gave short shift to the sexual harassment allegations raised by Anita Hill. Anita Hill's allegations were proven to be false. She made them up. That was a way for her to get information. HBO made a movie on it, and they left out the fact that during the time she was saying she was being unwantingly harassed, there was massive communication, text, phone calls between them outside the office where she was still reaching out for his help, for his support, for his guidance from Clarence Thomas after she said it was the worst time of her life. And the information as it came to light it's shifted. There was none of that. It was a couple of jokes between co-workers, between the authority figure, and she decided that after the fact that she could raise to prominence, and has done fairly well by making false allegations. He backed crime legislations that many blame for helping fuel the explosion in prison populations. This is the Democratic policy. Back in the day, this is a Clinton crime bill, which all Democrats were on board for, and it really did cause a lot of further incarceration. He eulogized Senator Strom Thurmond, Republican, whose prominence as a segregationist. This eulogizing a member of the opposite party who rose to prominence as a segregationist, this would have been something that happened during the era of segregation, which was a kind of a dark period in American politics, and shouldn't be attacked for eulogizing a fellow senator. He backed the Iraq War. I would basically say that anyone who was in office during the period of the Iraq War, of the Afghanistan, and the second Iraq War, pretty well every politician voted for that. It would be hard pressed to find more than one or two who didn't. And that's just what you're looking at. They're going way back in time. If Biden 76 formally enters a race, he has strongly hinted he will do so in a matter of weeks. The question of which those attitudes will prevail. It is very strange that in this era of identity politics, you just see this. Biden is also opposed to Medicare for all. He's looking for a public insurance option. Voted for the Iraq War and the Patriot Act, which pretty well everyone in government did, because if you at the time were against either of those things, you were against America. Trans-Pacific Partnership, a partnership which would basically increase harm on lots of parts of Asia, from what I've read of it and what it was doing, is these things are very bad for most groups, and they generally drag down the American worker. I believe what we're going to get out of this group with Joe Biden is eventually he's going to come under fire on his own side, unless they can keep the identity politic people down. Here you go. How many sleepless nights do you think Trump has had over what he's doing to America's farmers? Biden asked Iowans today. Here's your answer. Just as many as he's had when he stiffed the construction workers and electricians and plumbers who built his hotels and casinos. 0. There you go. He has to my knowledge, represented no new policies. They're not going after policy, they're going after person. And they're talking about Trump's tariff war, where you now have manufacturing jobs coming back to the U.S. Biden will charge that American farmers have been crushed by Mr. Trump's tariff war with China, which Biden called the production of the president's lack of empathy for rural residents, according to his prepared remarks. In the U.S., we are on a job high right now. Hiring high, economy's going faster, or booming faster and faster, and hasn't had that break hit that we normally see. And Trump, of course, will say it's because of his tax breaks. I don't know. I'm not a hardcore economist. I do know that every few years, though, you're supposed to have a boom and then a bust and then a boom and then a bust, kind of the cycle of the economy. Biden is well known for his own crude language and embarrassing behavior. He's literally a meme in the world because of what he does when he grabs and hugs and smells and does this very odd thing. It's supposed to be the grandfather approach. However, as Biden becomes more mainstream, I just see this coming out and wrecking part of his campaign. I don't know. I don't see Joe Biden as the answer to Trump. I see Joe Biden as the answer to maybe corporate counter to Bernie Sanders on the Democratic side. He's definitely more likable than a lot of the other candidates. Please like, comment, leave your thoughts below. Feel free to dislike the video, whatever you want to do. I'm just trying to make sense out of the world. Thank you all and hope you have a great day.